You're tuned in to the Foxboro BeatCast, a podcast for Patriots fans by Patriots fans. And here's your host, Kaleb McChesney.
Hello and welcome to the Foxboro BeatCast, everybody. I'm your host, Kaleb McChesney. Alongside me, my co-host, once again, fan favorite. Everybody loves him. My guy, Trent. We're back after a week hiatus. We needed a break. It's spring break, all right? We all needed to catch some sun. We needed to rest up and let the news come to us for once instead of breaking it ourselves. But yeah, Trent, how's the break?
It was good. My little brothers had their birthday party, so we had fun with that. We had family over and just kind of relaxing.
Oh, that's good. I went to Phoenix. I went to Arizona for more baseball than I could ever imagine digesting. But my face has got a little more color now, so it's looking a little better. But yeah, glad to be in the sun, but I'm also glad to be back. As much as the first day I got back, it was a snowstorm. So, welcome back to me. Dig up my car, but neither here nor there. We're here to discuss some big stuff. Some big stuff. We missed some stuff around the league that we're gonna go over. We're gonna talk about the Patriots a lot. There's some things that we can discuss that is draft related. We signed another player that's kind of worth mentioning. And then we have another tier list for you a little bit later that we'll get into. But let's just lead it off. Let's demand it off. We're getting into this Patriots stuff. So the one major signing that they made while we were on break was the signing of Minnesota wide receiver KJ Osborne to, I believe it was a 1-year deal. Let me look again. KJ Osborne, 1 year, $4 million. KJ Osborne was a fine number 3 receiver in Minnesota. He's okay. Like he's your typical wide receiver 3 that's good at most stuff, not great at anything. Kind of just speaks to how the Patriots are treating the wide receiver room like in the last decade or so. But the more kind of interesting stuff happened at the league meetings this year. Yes, Bill Belichick's first league meeting that he missed because he doesn't have a job. Jerod Mayo took his spot. I believe he stood right next to Robert Saleh in that head coach team photo. And he said some interesting stuff. Particularly as it comes to the quarterback position. We obviously signed Jacoby Brissett to that 1-year deal, and his comments, and I quote, as I go and read it, unless I just closed out the article that had Jacoby Brissett comments on it, but basically he's big fan of Jacoby Brissett. He likes what he brings to the table. He likes having him as a veteran presence. They could feel real comfortable with him starting week 1 and going the full season if they choose to, but Mayo still maintains that picking a quarterback at number 3 is the priority right now. It's fair to look in that direction, as the Washington Commanders said about taking a quarterback at 2, which we'll get into what they're thinking a little bit later. But yeah, so which quarterback could the Patriots be looking at? Obviously, Caleb Williams. I think Jerod Mayo even said like straight up, we all know what Chicago is doing at number 1. I believe he said that just straight up, which I appreciate that level of transparency. Yeah, they're doing that. So, and then you have 2, you have whatever Washington's going to decide. But 3, you can safely assume that one of Drake May and one of Jaden Daniels is going to be there at number 3. Maybe not both, but certainly one of them. Unless Chicago is really pulling the rug from under us. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. The quarterback that they're mostly tied to is Jaden Daniels, LSU, Heisman winning quarterback. We've gone ad nauseum about how we feel about Jaden Daniels, how good we think he can be. We had Ken on here 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at this point, going on about what he loves about him and whatever. But the news is that with LSU's pro day tomorrow, or today as you're watching this on Wednesday, the Patriots are going to meet with Jaden Daniels in a lengthy conversation, a lengthy meeting before the pro day. Trent, what do you make of Jerod Mayo's comments saying that QB at 3 is the priority, but they're keeping all the options on the table. They have to really love a guy. Do you think that means Jaden Daniels is the pick at 3, and if Jaden Daniels isn't there, they're going to move it or go somewhere else as far as the position goes? What do you make of that?
Well, I think he's being smart about it, especially if Jaden Daniels does end up going to the Commanders. If your choices are Drake May or JJ McCarthy, if you don't feel super great about either of those guys, then you absolutely shouldn't pigeonhole yourselves into forcing a quarterback pick. Excuse me, that's how you end up with Kenny Pickett as your quarterback for 3 years. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is right there. I still like I like that fit a lot. Marvin Harrison in New England. I think he could transform that offense maybe more than a first year quarterback could even. So I think they're being smart with it out of Daniels, JJ, and Drake May. If you want a instantaneous starter and the guy who's going to have the most potential to do that, I think Jaden Daniels is the answer. But I think there's a lot of upside in all three guys, whichever way they decide to go.
Right. So, assuming that Daniels is the pick at 2, which I still kind of think is the case, even with the report that came out that we'll go over a little bit later. So just roll with me here that Daniels is going to be the pick at 2. And Minnesota calls you up and offers 11-23, which they acquired while we were gone. I believe that they did that trade. Minnesota gets another first round pick, as we assume, to move up in this draft to get JJ McCarthy, who they seem very gung ho about. Would you, if you're the Patriots, consider 11-23 and then a 2025 1 to trade back? Because I think that's basically the trade that's going to happen if
Ooh,
they trade down.
3 firsts and a
Yeah,
first next year, I'd
that
take it in a heartbeat if I was New England. I wouldn't think twice about it.
even with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the board.
100% I
Okay,
would. With how
why
with
would
how
you?
deep
Why would you say
with,
that?
with how deep this wide receiver class is, obviously there's going to be a steep fall off from Marvin Harrison to whoever you get. But if you get a guy like Brian Thomas, maybe even a Romo Dunze if he's able to fall to 11. I doubt he does, but I've seen some mocks having him falling a bit into the double digits.
You haven't said my draft crush yet. I'm a little upset.
Well, I really like I like Romo Dunze. I don't think Brock Bowers is a need, but offense is needed so
You
much.
could even take a tackle at 11. Honestly,
Yeah, you could take a tackle at 11. Brian Thomas Jr. very well might be there at 2023. That's another one. And then in the second round, you just take Michael Penix Jr. and you hope that he can mold him. Jacoby and Penix aren't too dissimilar from each other either as far as their play style. So I think that'd be a really good fit for Penix. So I would take 3 firsts and run for that third pick if I were New England.
but Jaden Daniels, if he's there at 3, I feel very confident about that. I mean, with my position has pretty much maintained and stayed that take the quarterback at 3 if you love him, whether that's Daniels or May or shit, even McCarthy if you really loved him. Like, okay, like McCarthy would be a weird pick for me because I'm like I don't know how I feel about how long I think it'll take for him to be a real difference maker on this wasteland of an offense we have right now. But if you love the quarterback, just take your guy. Even if teams like Trey Lance, like that draft didn't work out, Zach Wilson with the Jets didn't work out. If you feel real strongly, I mean, you got to put all your weight behind your decision and let the cards kind of play out. So if Jane Daniels is the pick at 3, I have no qualms. I have no like, well, we could have traded out, but we were stuck with this quarterback. I'm like, if you love your quarterback, that's the most important position. Period. I think the only way they could really screw this up is if they took a tackle at 3.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine that's going to be a Jerod Mayo move. I will say, and I agree with you 100%, that 99% of the time, I think just take the best player available that you need. Take the superstar, the guy you're not going to be able to replicate by committee and all this. But there's so much that needs to be added to this team that adding 3 extra first round picks, well, technically 2,
2, yeah.
adding 2 extra first-round picks is going to accelerate this process so much. And I don't think there's a guy in this class who is a. If Caleb Williams was there at 3, I would feel differently. Um, while I think Jaden Daniels has the most potential, I think he also has the lowest floor of any of these 3 guys by far. So if you miss on Jaden Daniels, then you're setting yourself back 3 years. Whereas if you pick Penix in the early second and miss on him, you've still got 3 really good players more than likely coming in to help accelerate that process.
No, for sure. As far as other Patriots stuff goes, I don't think we've really missed out on anything. Kraft mentioned he talked about the not only the dynasty, which we've gone ad nauseum over. We're not going to really go over that anymore. Go watch it yourself at this point. It's been over for 3 weeks. Get on it. But he did mention the report card, the NFLPA report card that came out, and how he was very disappointed about the results of that. Obviously, Kraft himself got like an F minus or an F or a D grade on the ownership. The weight room was an F minus. The Patriots report card was bad. They got slammed. So Kraft's obviously noticing it enough to say something to the media. So that'll be something to follow as well. Outside of that, I guess I'll really quickly kind of wrap up the free agency process that we had. I'll just run down the list here of the guys we acquired and kind of give you an idea of how I feel about it. Trent, I'm sure that you can pitch in if you want to as well. We brought back Mike Onwenu. We brought back Anthony Jennings. Brought in Antonio Gibson and Jacoby Brissett. Sion Taki. Brought in KJ Osborne. Brought in Chukwuma Okafor. Brought in Austin Hooper. Brought back Josh Uche. Brought in Armin Watts, D tackle from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brought in a guard, Nick Leverett. Brought back Jalen Reagor. As far as losses, Trent Brown goes to Cincinnati, which if Trent Brown wants to play and like doesn't act like a doofus like he did last year here, Joe Burrow might not take a sack next year. Trent Brown is that good when he's motivated. They got 2 big guys at those tackle spots. Mike Gesicki obviously goes to Cincinnati as well. Chris Board, the special team ace, goes back to Baltimore, and Mac Wilson signs a 3-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals. Some guys that are still out there. Oh, we brought back Kendrick Bourne. I don't know why it says he's available. Lawrence Guy still hasn't been brought back, so that's a shame. But as far as I felt a lot better about this earlier when we were bringing back the guys we want, but it didn't seem we add like we added. And I think it was Elliot Wolf who said something along the lines of it's important to right now we're just bringing back our guys. I think I sent that to you. I think Elliot Wolf might have said that word for word. I'd have to go back and look. This was really underwhelming for an offseason where we were being fed that, oh yeah, we're ready to burn cash was the quote. We're ready to burn money. We're ready to bring in some high-end free agents. And given they were in on the Calvin Ridley sweepstakes, which ended with him going to Tennessee. But you missed out on Keenan Allen. Missed out on a guy like that. You missed out on any possible like wide receiver one potential kind of guy that you were reportedly in on. It hasn't happened yet. So it's a little disheartening. I know that this there's a lot more to do. It wasn't going to be fixed overnight in one free agency class, certainly. There was a lot more work to do. There is a lot more work to do, and it's not going to be even the draft. If they nailed every pick, they're at best going to win like 6 games, 7 games maybe. We'd have to see come preseason time and all that kind of fun stuff. See how things kind of develop. But it was going to take more than one off season. But God, how do you look at this and just feel super super good about it when you don't have any freshness on the team? You know what I mean?
No, it's really hard, especially when I think the Patriots went into this free agency with the completely wrong mindset because it's It's the Pacific. It's the Northeast. It's not the most exciting place to be living. Players aren't just going to come play
Don't have
for.
that pull anymore for sure.
Yeah, you don't have the Patriot Way discount that you're going to get from guys. You're going to have to overpay to get good players to play on this team with the way it is right now. And if I know Kraft had the comment about Calvin Ridley that, oh well, we were willing to match the best offer, but he wanted to stay in the South. Like I'm sure that's what it was.
I didn't catch that. That's an interesting comment.
Yeah, he said that his girlfriend had told him that she wanted to stay in the South, which I believe they play in Knoxville in Tennessee. I could be wrong.
It's south enough.
I guess. I mean, I think
it's nothing compared to the New England winters, I can guarantee you.
100%, 100% in that sense. But the issue is, why would Calvin Ridley want to play for a team with, at this point, not nearly as bright of a future and a much worse destination to live? So if you're going to be at that point, you're going to have to be overpaying for guys. Jacksonville is not the most beautiful place to live in the world. They went out and overpaid for Christian Kirk, which we all made fun of at the time.
And Gabe Davis.
Yeah, and Gabe Davis. That's just what you're going to have to do. Indianapolis, the Colts have had to do the same thing forever. So if they don't get the right mentality, then they better be hitting on these draft picks or they're in for a rough few years.
Right. I mean, again, I keep going back to this because it's so easy. A lot of this front office is from Green Bay, and they know how to hit on these draft picks. They know how to make Green Bay a quote unquote destination. But again, the quarterback position is just so important. These guys want to play with good quarterbacks. It's true. So we'll see, I guess. But this free agency class, a little underwhelming. Like, I would have traded a fourth for Keenan Allen, like Chicago did, easily, no doubt in my mind. I would have just sent it. Probably wouldn't have given Mike Williams that contract. I probably wouldn't have spent too much time on that. But Keenan Allen, the big miss for me. Calvin Ridley is not as big of a miss because it sounds like you weren't going to get him anyway.
Keenan Allen for a 4th round pick feels like such a prime Belichick trade to pull too.
God, I'm not going to say I miss Belichick yet, but give me a couple of years where I'm like, okay, maybe we screwed up on Fire and Bill. But yeah, so any other Patriots thoughts? Anything on your brain that I might have missed, or are we just gonna tear right into the rest of the league here?
I seem to like the KJ Osborne move more than you do. I mean,
it's a whatever move for me.
I think it adds a veteran presence to the room, which they desperately need. And I don't think that not that he's a long.
No, I mean, how much veteran presence do you need in that room? Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Hasn't he? Well, I don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster may be a veteran, but I don't know if that's exactly the presence you want.
I mean, he's never on the field anyway.
He's too busy making TikToks. Do you still do that?
I don't know. I never saw it. You hardly ever
move
heard
on to the
from
next topic. You move on to the next topic. I'll look it up.
I haven't seen a Juju TikTok in a minute. I'll look at this Patriots roster real quick. I'll take a look at the wide receivers they have in the building. Tyquan Thornton, Kayshon Boutte, who is like felony bad, but Jerod Mayo said he still wants to work with him. He still has hope for Kayshon Boutte. That's interesting. I hope it works out for him because Boutte in his prime years at LSU was pretty damn good. Borderline 1st round pick before he got in trouble. Whether it be injuries or actual trouble. But yeah, KJ Osborne is a 26-year-old veteran. Kendrick Bourne's 28. Juju Smith-Schuster's 27. Can we just get a guy who can play? Like, no disrespect to Kendrick Bourne. He's a fine wide receiver too. I'm okay with KJ Osborne. I'm good with Pop Douglas, but can we just get a guy? You know what I'm talking about? Can we just get somebody who's like when defenses are lining up, like we got to cover this dude? Because I'm pretty sure the corners are looking at a wide receiver room and like I can't name a single guy and laughing at us. Have you seen a wide receiver room this bad?
I mean, Carolina's was pretty bad last year. I don't know if it was that bad.
DJ Chark and Austin Thielen versus Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster. I'll take theirs.
God, it's coughing baby versus coughing baby. That's terrible.
Yeah.
There's got to be one. I feel like there's one off
The
top.
Giants with
Arizona's is pretty bad right now.
right now, yeah, but they're gonna get murder. They're hearing it Murder Marv Jr. It's gonna be fine.
Maserati Marv. If they get Marv, obviously it takes a jump. But if Rondell Moore is your best wide receiver,
Rondell got traded to Atlanta? Remember?
oh, that's right. They don't even have Rondell. Michael Wilson. That's their best receiver.
Oh, that's gross. Let's see that Andy Isabella over there, UMass legend. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I guess. I think you're gonna be in for a long year, Patriots fans. But I'll be right there with you. Want to talk about the rest of the league? Want to get into something a little more exciting, Trent? I have a feeling you want to get into something a little more exciting. The rest of the league, we didn't miss on too much league wide. I don't think. Obviously, the big one is the stuff that Pittsburgh's doing in the quarterback room. Obviously, I don't remember if we talked about Russell Wilson. I think we did. He gets that quick 1 year veteran minimum deal for Pittsburgh to stick it to Denver. Then they go and trade for Justin Fields. And then Kenny Pickett goes to Philadelphia. So yeah, that's a big one. What do you make about that quarterback competition?
I think it's a really great move for Pittsburgh.
Really?
I like the addition of Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson, if he decides to be that mentor type figure to Justin, which at this point I think Russ has been completely humbled by this entire Denver experience. If he is, I mean, there's not many guys in the league I think would be a better mentor to Justin to kind of unlock that potential. And you get him for next to nothing. And if Russ does end up bombing out, you have a high upside second option. Either way, now you have two guys in the locker room who are better than Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. So I think a really good offseason so far for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they've been low key, kind of aggressive. I like it. And then they go and sign Cordell Patterson today, which is just adding to a very interesting running back room.
He's probably going to be a special teams guy, if I had to guess. I can't imagine he's going to get too many actual.
Well, you know who's the offensive coordinator over there now, don't you?
I do.
Just tossing it out there, tossing it out there. Pittsburgh. What else have they really done here? Didn't they bring in
Patrick Queen?
That's right. Deshaun Elliott. I kind of like that move. Miles Killebrew, safety. Yeah, some solid move. Van Jefferson. That's cool. It's a cool little piece there. That could be something. They could be cooking something in Pittsburgh. What else do we got? What else happened? Want to talk about your favorite move of the offseason with L'Jarius Sneed getting traded over to Tennessee?
Honestly, not really. So sick of this team, man.
Well, the Colts are definitively worse than the Tennessee Titans. How do you feel? What's the take?
I don't know about definitively. I think definitively is a strong word.
I don't know. That's the word you used with me on the.
Well, no, I think we definitely could be the word. The Colts could finish last in the division. Like that is on the table. But if Will Levis is as bad as I think he is, if Tony Pollard was a Cowboys offense merchant, like he very well could be, there's a lot of things. Tennessee could be really good. They could be just as bad as they were last year. That is on the table. Because Calvin Ridley, a lot of question marks about him, about the kind of player he is at this point in his career. Tony Pollard is coming off a pretty bad year. I'm shocked he got the kind of contract he did. But it was a season coming off injury, so maybe he's going to be fully healthy and kind of kick it into that next year.
But that
Yeah.
defense,
Defense looks about a lot better. I think Snead is a phenomenal player. He's going to add a lot. They also got Chidobe Awuzie in the defensive backfield. He's going to help bolster that a good
what
little
was the
bit,
trade?
too.
Was it a third round pick?
A third and a seventh, I believe.
And then you didn't have to pay him over $20 million or $25 million, whatever it was.
No, the big hang up was the 55 million guaranteed.
Colts
That
weren't
was
the Colts weren't willing to do that.
Well, apparently the new narrative that dropped after the deal happened was the Colts thought that he was a very good player but not a great player, and
Interesting.
they weren't going to give. Well, that's Ballard's MO. Ballard doesn't make big moves unless he is trading. They got to check all the boxes. They have to be no history of injuries, lock, one of the best guys at their position, young. They have to check off all these boxes. The only big move that he's made in his 8 years in Indy is the trade for DeForest Buckner, which obviously one of the best defensive tackles of this generation. I don't know, that may be a little strong, but definitely one
No,
of
he's one of them.
yeah, definitely one of the best of the last few years at the very least. So that's who he goes after. I mean, he said forever, we're not going to take a quarterback in the first round unless we feel really, really good about him, which they feel really good about Anthony Richardson this whole offseason, which I'm sure we'll get to the Colts more later in a segment we're going to do in a little bit, but they are fully and completely banking on Anthony Richardson elevating this team, which
Is a gamble.
it's a gamble. I don't hate it. I love AR. I think he's got huge, huge, huge upside to him. Everything we've heard Steichen talk about how he's looked so far in the preseason process, he's looking really good. But if AR isn't the guy you think he is, or if goodness forbid he can't stay on the field, this entire offseason was a colossal failure.
No, for sure. Am I missing anything else? It was admittedly, I don't want to say quiet while we were gone, but not a ton happened. Tre'Davious White signed with the Rams today.
Oh, yep, that's new.
That is new. Good offseason for the Rams getting him for sure. If he can stay healthy, I mean, that's
Well,
that.
I don't know if I'd say good offseason when the best defensive player of all time arguably retires. And
Yeah, but then they got Jimmy Garoppolo. So
they did get Jimmy Garoppolo. That is true.
I can't believe that happened while we were gone. Okay, yeah, so I can't even get mad at myself for not mentioning it last time we were here.
Yep.
That happened when we were gone. My boy Jimmy G going to LA, back in Cali, getting his tan on. Just wait. Stafford's gonna miss a play. He's gonna miss it. He's gonna get hurt, and Jimmy G's just gonna take that job and never look back until he gets hurt, and then it's Sean Walford's job or whatever his name is.
Ever since Jimmy left New England, he only goes to teams exclusively with gorgeous women everywhere.
Can you blame him? Can you blame him?
No, I don't blame him at all.
God, we haven't really missed anything, truly. Oh, God, I really want to talk about Joe Flacco, but I'll wait on the Joe Flacco thing because I'm a big fan of what he had to say. How about the all problematic Cleveland Browns QB room?
I don't know if you want me to get into my opinions on Deshaun Watson, especially Jameis Winston. Apparently, I'm in the minority.
No, I'm right there with you. Right there with you. I am waving the flag with you, buddy. That dude is weird.
They caught him on camera. It's not
way.
even a he said, she said thing.
Yeah,
they caught him in 4K.
4K. Caught. Darnell Mooney got 13 a year from Atlanta. That's gross.
I didn't know he got 13 million.
Yeah, 3 years, $39 million. Isn't that sick? The Rams went and got Jonah Jackson for 3 for 51. That's cool. Rams are loading up. They are. Am I missing anything else? Don't think so. Think we did a good job. Chase Young signing with the Saints with a broken freaking neck. Shout out to Kurt Angle. We talked about Sam Darnold to Minnesota, didn't we? That
I,
happened before we
I was
left.
thinking about that in my head, but is that something
Did that happen before we left?
I can't remember?
Okay,
There's not much to say on it
we can
regardless.
touch on it for a minute. I'll reset my Sam Darnold thoughts here. I'll put it on paper. I'll put it on camera. If you're expecting Sam Darnold to be an absolute tire fire and send the Minnesota Vikings to 5-6 wins, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed. I don't think he's going to be that bad. If he has to play the full year because they draft JJ and they just don't feel comfortable throwing him out there yet for whatever reason, I don't think Sam Darnold's going to have him in rough shape. I think 7 wins with Sam Darnold is on the table. I wouldn't go as far as to say anything greater than that for sure. But I think 7-8 wins. I think that's where you're going to get with a full season of Sam Darnold behind that absolutely loaded offense and a defense that's getting better every single step of the way, thanks to Brian Flores, who should be an NFL head coach, by the way. So if you're expecting Sam Darnold to flame out, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed. But if he does, I'll be right back here. I admit when I'm wrong, but I think Minnesota's too good for him to screw up.
I think he stinks, just for the record.
So you think Minnesota will bottom out if they have to play him for a full season for whatever reason?
Well, if
Because that's my point.
If Justin Jefferson is healthy, no. But I also think that
Assuming all things are normal.
Yeah, if Justin Jefferson was healthy, I think Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins would have looked better than they did in Minnesota too. So
Josh Dobbs wasn't particularly inspiring.
I think Kevin O'Connell is a very quarterback friendly coach, especially with the system that he runs. I don't expect Darnold to be horrible, but I also can't imagine he's going to look any better than Mason Rudolph looked in Pittsburgh at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's only looked as horrible as he has been because of the absolute crap he's dealt with as far as a surrounding coaching staff or surrounding rosters between the first 2 teams, and obviously he played like a glorified preseason game at the end of the year with the Niners last year, and nothing looked great about that at all. I feel bad for anybody who had to watch that game in Week 18. Tell you the truth, but no, I expect Sam Darnold to be a fine, like 2017, 2018, 2019 Andy Dalton level quarterback. He's not going to be super inspiring. He's not going to wow you, but I think it'll be fine. If Minnesota has to play him, they'll be fine. Obviously, I'm not going to tout them as what they were with Kirk because they were pushing for the division if Kirk's healthy. But no, I think I don't expect him to flame out at all. I think the Vikings will be just fine. But I also don't really expect him to play the full year if they acquire a quarterback. So as far as that goes, did we miss anything else? As I say it again, did we miss anything? Mike Williams goes to the most injury-prone turf of all time with the Jets. What a bad spot that is.
Yep. Not great.
Let's give this a second. This was a big thing. This was a big thing with the NFL owners' meetings. They banned the hip drop tackle. I think that's something we should probably touch on. Unfortunately for you people who want the harsh reactions and the volatile slamming the fist, this is a catastrophe. This is an abomination. NFL is being ruined by wokeness. You're not gonna get that from us. We don't think it's that big of a deal yet. Trent, I'll let you kind of paint your thoughts before I speak for you further.
Yeah, it all depends on how it's called. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. I don't think guys are doing it with the intention of hurting people, but
unless you're Mac Jones.
It is absolutely an avenue for guys if they want to hurt somebody and do it legally. A hip drop tackle was a way to do it, to just drop all your body weight on the guy's lower body. It depends on how it gets called. I'm sure people said the same thing they're saying right now about the horse collar tackle when that was banned. So I'm going to hold my judgment to see how it's called, but if it's used and it ends up altering the outcome of games in ticky-tack kind of tackles, then I'm going to sour on it much more.
No, for sure. I think Ken said this beautifully in the group chat. They need to stop worrying about players tackling each other and worry about the field that they're playing on with stadiums like MetLife, which is why it kind of brought me back here because it's bad. I don't know what it is. That's probably the biggest reason why more players are getting hurt, I believe, is the field they're playing on. And they're not addressing that because why? Because it is cheaper to maintain turf than it is natural grass. So
Yep.
that's great. But I do enjoy seeing all the old people lose their mind about the hip drop tackle. It is fun discourse for me to watch because people have no idea what the hell they're talking about and they just want to be reactionary. I don't think anything else big came from that league meetings. The Lions threw out that proposal where a coach gets a third challenge if he gets the first one right, or the second one right. If he gets one right, he gets another. Um, that was one. The Eagles tried to push their 4th and 20 onside kick thing again, and it didn't work. Um, was there anything else that passed? Was there another like kickoff thing that was passed?
There was the XFL kick return getting put in, which
Can you
I
describe that for me? Because I'm not familiar.
so it's hard to explain without a visual of it,
Well,
but
the
basically if you've
gist.
seen the XFL, the kickers will kick from the same spot and the kicking team's blockers or their gunners, so to speak, they are a few yards away from the front line of the receiving team, and there's basically what it is because it's hard to explain all of the intricacies without seeing it.
Yeah.
It's designed to make kick returns safer while also at the same time encouraging much more balls actually getting returned instead of it just being a useless touchback every single time.
Do you think that's going to work, or do you have your
Yes.
doubts? Okay.
It was very exciting in the XFL. I think this is a much better way to I think everybody is going to be getting what they want out of this. People are poo-pooing it. I don't think they've seen it in action.
Admittedly, why would you? It's the XFL.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I think in the end, everybody is going to get what they want.
Good. Good. Glad the NFL did something right this offseason. Um, you ready for a game? I say game, but it's mostly just our fun segment of the night as we close it off, as we shake the rust off. We need to give ourselves some softballs before we really start hitting the dingers. Um, so basically, I know you remember our old friend, the tier list. We're gonna be ranking each team as they stand today, before the draft, after the majority of free agency. Oh, I forgot. We forgot to talk about Hollywood Brown with the Chiefs. We'll get there a little bit later. Um, they finally have a real receiver that can maybe catch a football. But we're gonna go through these teams. We're gonna talk about where we think they sit. If the season were to start today, pre-draft, post-free agency, where they would end up on our list. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories, ranging from Super Bowl favorites to the strong playoff teams, the fringe playoff teams, the mediocre, and the bad. And I'm sorry, we're going to be pretty blunt with the bad teams because there's no room between bad and mediocre. I believe. I think there's a strong line. There's no room for gray area between mediocre and bad. If you're less than mediocre, you're bad. That's just how I feel. But we'll add some context for you if it makes you feel better. Let's just start with the Arizona Cardinals. Right now, they're bad.
Yeah.
I know they're working on it. And this draft should help. Don't they have another first round pick? No, they traded it. They traded to Minnesota, didn't they?
They did trade it, yep.
Okay. So we'll see what happens with them, but we're gonna assume that they get Marvin Harrison Jr. there with their first pick. And that could look pretty good for them. That could be a little bit better. That could be a way to get them to mediocre when we do this again in the preseason. But right now, they're bad. The Falcons. I think they're a fringe playoff team just because of the division they play in.
Yep.
And
I would agree.
obviously, getting Kirk Cousins is huge. It's
Me.
big. Getting Kirk Cousins is big. Assuming he stays healthy, that's big.
Well, that's the big question. I mean, a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles
Well, he's not
is
going to be a prick about like Aaron Rodgers was at least. Like at least we know that he didn't rush it.
well 100%. But is he also going to be the same guy that we saw. And it's not like he was, and Kirk is solid, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he was exactly lighting the world on fire either. Um and I think there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, they're a lock to win the division." I don't think that at all. I think they could be. They have the most potential of any team in the division.
I think they're basically they're just as strong as Tampa. I think they're on an even playing field with
Yeah,
Tampa.
I agree.
Baltimore. I know the gut feeling says Super Bowl favorites, but I just feel strong playoff about them. What have they added this offseason? Do we feel
Derrick Henry? I think Derrick
Derrick
Henry
Henry's big for sure.
massive.
Derrick Henry's a massive play. That admittedly slipped my mind. It's
Yep.
been a long 2 weeks, people. But I don't know. Just we lost Patrick Queen. That's not great. Do they add any?
You also have Roquan Smith also to kind of make up for that. It is a loss for sure, but they have guys to kind of fill that role.
Pass rushers? Do we feel great about those?
Yeah, I think so. Well, have they kept Jadeveon Clowney, or is he still a free agent?
I think he's still out there.
Okay.
But how much do we want to think that Clowney was a Linsanity run? Like he's
I
never
don't know.
going to touch that again.
Baltimore has the kind of culture that their defenses are always going to be good. So I have no doubt that if he stayed in Baltimore, he would have a season at least pretty similar to what he had this past one.
Okay. Well, if you feel strongly about Super Bowl favorite, I'll throw them there. But I don't know. I'm a small Super Bowl favorite tier guy.
How about we keep Super Bowl favorites to 3 teams per conference?
3 teams. I don't even know if we'll get there. I don't even know.
I have 3 from the AFC.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But
Okay.
we'll see when we get there. So I'll put Ravens there for now. I will. The Buffalo Bills strong playoff team. They need to put something. They need to put it together.
Yep.
And Stephon Diggs with his stuff, you got to figure that out. You got to find a receiver to replace Gabe Davis. As much as Gabe Davis was a streaky little dude himself, you need to find a. Did they find a running back? Did they get one of the big time
running
ones?
back? I don't think they have any doubts about him being their guy at running
James
back
Cook?
right now.
I have doubts about him.
James Cook is good when they actually use him.
I have doubts about
He's
it.
awesome.
I have doubts about their offensive play calling. I don't have really doubts about Josh Allen, really. He just hasn't put it together. That team just hasn't put it together. And they lost Tre'Davious White, which obviously could be considered a big loss, but he obviously couldn't stay on the field for as much as they wanted him to.
Well, I will say about Buffalo, in their defense, and I've never been a big Buffalo as far as being Super Bowl favorites guy, but those last few weeks this season with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator, when they kind of cut out a lot of the running gun stuff, they cut out a lot of that, and they played much more conservatively on offense, not letting Josh Allen mess it up as much. They were a much better football team, and they were about this close away from beating the Chiefs and going to the AFC title game. So they did all that without Tre'Davious White. They lost their entire starting defensive backfield, but it's not like it was much to write home about to begin with. I feel like Buffalo has, depending on how the draft goes, they can make something happen for sure. I just don't expect them to do it.
We can fly through these next 2 teams. Carolina's bad.
Yep.
We'll see how good Dave Canales is. Let's see if he can pull any of that magic that he pulled with Baker in Carolina with Bryce Young. Offense still needs a lot of work. So the Bears are also bad.
Whoa.
Okay.
What?
Convince me that the Bears are bad.
I'm putting the Bears in fringe playoff. Think about it.
Explain it to me.
Think about it. The Bears didn't really lose anybody other than Darnell Mooney. Oh, no. They didn't lose anybody. People are acting like the Bears are terrible. The Bears won 7 games last year.
Why is that?
If you want to argue that they fell ass backwards into those 7 games, then that's fine. But they were a 7-win team. They've added Keenan Allen. They've added DeAndre Swift. They're going to add Caleb Williams, which I guess it depends on how good you feel about Caleb. I think Caleb is a significant upgrade over Justin Fields immediately. And you have Montez Sweat locked down, and you have another top 10 pick, depending on what they do with that. They could end up trading out of that pick. We'll see what they end up doing. But you could add a Rome Odunze, or if you want to add more protection on the offensive line. I think the Bears are a lot closer to competing for a playoff spot than a lot of people are realizing.
Okay. I don't know why I had completely forgotten about the Keenan Allen thing. Keenan Allen and DJ Moore is a pretty good wide receiver core.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Pretty good. DeAndre Swift, I still don't. I'm not a big DeAndre Swift guy.
A huge improvement over what they had, though.
Yeah, but that wasn't a huge bar to leap over either. I'll tell you what, I'll throw them in the mediocre for now because I want to see more. But you've convinced me off the bat. They're looking a lot better. The Bengals, they acquired Trent Brown, obviously. They still haven't traded T. Higgins, I don't think, right? I would have saw that.
No.
Okay. But we assume that he's gonna get traded at some point.
I don't know. It seems right now the Bengals are content on writing this out.
Is he content on writing it out?
No, but I also don't think he's going to sit.
How do you feel about the Bengals?
I lean fringe playoff.
Fringe playoff?
I do. Well, you got to think the Browns, it looks like right now that they got better. The Steelers definitely got better. We'll get to them in a second. And the Ravens are the Ravens. So it's the AFC. It's hard to be
I think that they're the best.
playoff.
I think that they are the best wild card team in the NFL.
I think they're the worst team in their own division.
Wow.
I do.
You are that confident that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is going to go into Pittsburgh and be better than Cincinnati?
I do.
Is that because you're that high on what Pittsburgh's got going on, or are you that low
Yes.
on Cincinnati?
I'm not super low on Cincinnati. Now, I'm lower on Cincinnati than most. I still think they're a really good team, but the AFC it's ludicrous how hard it is to get a playoff spot. I mean, we'll get to the Colts in a little bit, but most years over the last 2025, Colts would be looking like a pretty solid playoff team right now. I don't even know if they're going to get third place in their own division. That's how hard the AFC is right now. And then you double that times 2 for how good the AFC North is. I'm not very high on the Bengals at all. Plus, at this point, it'd be a miracle if Joe Burrow actually finishes the season.
Who they replaced Joe Mixon with?
Right now, it's looking like Chase Brown, but Zach Moss.
Ew.
Which
Ugh.
he's okay. You know?
Compared to Joe Mixon, I get Joe Mixon was getting old, he's kind of a lemon, but
Yeah.
he'd have his pop games.
Well, Zach Moss, I mean, he had his pop games in Indy too. Zach Moss had a better year last year than Joe Mixon did.
Fringe playoff team?
I lean, I mean, if you want to put him in strong playoff, I don't have too many gripes about it. I would put him in.
But you're letting it be known that you feel a way about Cincinnati.
I think I would be shocked if they finished top 2 in their own division. I would be shocked.
Ooh. Okay. There's the take of the night, fellas. I'll put him in strong playoff team. I think we'll put him in the back end of the strong playoff team when we order it, because I think you convinced me a little bit. Chidobe Awuzie, didn't he play for Cincinnati? Did they lose him?
He did. Yep, they lost him.
Who's playing corner for him now?
Daxton Hill, go blue. Dax Hill's solid, but he's not Chidobe Awuzie, and he's certainly not. And I know he was a safety and not a corner, but them losing Jesse Bates 2 years ago, they definitely felt that. So
they did acquire Trent Brown, who, if we assume, is motivated. Joe Burrow might not take a sack next year.
Well, Joe Burrow was getting hurt in training camp in non-touch drills, so I don't know if it matters.
I remember we all thought he popped his Achilles when we saw that video. If only we knew what was to come. But the Browns, they made the playoffs this year. Still don't feel good about that quarterback room.
Nope.
Not at all. They should have kept Joe Flacco. I feel high mediocre, low fringe playoff team for them.
No, I would solidly with that defense. I mean, that defense is gonna track no matter how bad the offense is. I mean, you saw it this year, you saw it this past season. I would solidly put. I think them and Cincinnati are right there on the same level. And like I said, I trust Cleveland more than I trust Cincinnati. I would put Cleveland in fringe playoff team and not think too much about it personally.
Okay. Yeah. The Cowboys, strong playoff team. Listen, Trent, I get it, but again, it is the Cowboys here.
I just can't quit them.
It's
I
Mike
just can't quit
McCarthy.
'em.
It's Mike McCarthy, okay?
I know. I'm like an abused. I shouldn't say that.
And Dak Prescott is gonna play out this year on the deal, I think. I don't know if they're gonna get a big time deal done.
Oh no, from what it sounds like, they're not going to, which honestly might light a fire under Dak's ass that he's needed for a few years now to kind of really step it up in the playoffs. I, I the
And
only
again, a quiet offseason for him too.
yeah, well, I mean, they're in a situation where
Again, they're
could
gonna be
really-
having 3 league setting deals. So
yeah,
they have to be
yeah,
quiet for sure. But
yeah. Their team is so good that they have to focus on their own guys, which was smart by them.
I felt
The
strong playoff
NFC,
about them last year. Nothing much has changed. I still feel strong playoff.
the NFC is just so bad. I mean,
No,
are they
like there are
the
2
division?
strong playoff teams right in that division.
Is there?
Yeah, I believe so.
I wouldn't put Philly as a strong playoff team.
I would.
I wouldn't. What about last year made you think they're a strong playoff team?
Oh, now you're gonna be the guy who looked at the Eagles last year and said, "Yeah, no, I just don't trust it." Jalen Hurts looked bad last year.
Well, here's the thing. It's not even that I don't trust because I think Jalen was hurt a lot of the year. It's
Who's to
that
say
with
that's
the
not gonna get better?
Eagles. Do we just want to like transition into doing the Eagles? I know they're in the
Sure, let's bring him right up.
Since we're already talking about them.
Bring him right up.
I don't trust Nick Sirianni without Shane Steichen and
Well, they completely overhauled that coaching staff, I think, didn't they?
they overhauled it again, but they overhauled it last year too, and it was an abject failure.
Well, that was because they lost everybody. Now they had some suck bags and they got rid of them. I don't know who's coaching the offense now, but
it could be some suck bags now. That's the thing. I mean, do you trust Nick Sirianni's hiring chops at this point?
I mean, let me see who their offensive coordinator is. Eagles offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. I'm okay with Kellen Moore. I am. I'm okay with him. I still feel strong playoff with them. I think you can count on them making a wild card because the NFC is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they. Here's the thing,
Okay.
and this is a take.
Okay.
If you ask me right now, life on the line, who do I think is going to win more games this year out of Philly and Chicago? I'd probably take Chicago. I'm not going to lie.
Ooh, Trent's
probably
out of
take
here
Chicago.
firing.
I think Chicago is in a much better place. There's just so many question marks with Philly. That's why I have trouble trusting them. I mean,
I think there's just as many question marks with Chicago, if not more.
well, I think, and that's fair, but they've also added.
And I think the Eagles' top end talent is a lot better than Chicago's.
I think their top end talent is better too, but I also don't think that Philly.
Matt
was 2
Eberflus is
seconds
also
away
the
from
coach of
firing
Chicago. I'll throw that out there.
Philly was 2 seconds away from firing their head coach last year.
And Chicago still has Matt Eberflus.
Which look, Matt Eberflus doesn't instill a ton of what's the word, inspiration in me either, but I also think that Chicago has the draft capital that they're going to add a lot more pieces to this team, whereas Philly, you've got the questions with AJ Brown and his temperament. Was it a Linsanity run the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate? Because he's had a lot more years where he was mediocre than years he was an MVP candidate. I believe in Jalen.
You know what?
Personally, don't get me wrong.
Here's what I'll do. I'll save the strong playoff teams for guys that I'm confident will win their division or will be right there for it. Like the Bengals and the Ravens, because I think they'll be right there for it. The Eagles, I'll put them as a fringe playoff team because I don't think they're winning the division. I think they'll make it as a wild card.
Yeah. I think Dallas is still solidly winning that division this year.
Denver, I'm going to put mediocre because they do have some solid talent, but that quarterback spot, I need to see. I need to see what the hell they're doing.
Oh, I would put Denver in bad because their starting quarterback this year, there's a 99% chance that is either going to be Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham.
You don't think they're going to add somebody to that room?
Who is there to add?
Somebody not named Jarrett Stidham.
I don't know if there's anyone left. What do you want to drag Andy Dalton off the street? They're trying to get a quarterback's passed.
But I can't believe they weren't in on like anybody. Is Sean Payton just that picky?
I don't know, but now if they get
Denver had success last year, in spurts. They did. They have all their picks back now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a little bit of optimism there. I do.
I'm fine putting him in mediocre, but just off the chance of them getting if their starting quarterback next year is either JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix, I think they'll be fine. They'll be like lower end of fine, but they'll be fine. If their starting quarterback is Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham, they will be.
Again, there's still a lot of questions here. So, and we're doing this like pre-draft, so we're a little.
Yeah.
We're working with our arms tied behind our back here for you guys.
Yeah.
So, I'll put him in mediocre for now because they had success. Sean Payton's still a pretty good coach. And we'll just kind of see what happens, I think. But time for me to eat my words on the Lions. They're a strong playoff team.
Whoa, they're absolutely Super Bowl favorites.
Oh, you're on crack.
What do you mean? They were 5 seconds away from going to the Super Bowl last year.
And they would have got walloped by Kansas City.
You know they beat Kansas City, right?
Early season, week 1. They got better as the season went on.
I don't understand how that logic tracks that San Francisco literally needed the miracle of all miracles to even beat Detroit. But Detroit would have went and played a team that beat San Francisco, that Detroit also beat Kansas City earlier in the year.
In week 1. A lot of things happened from week 1, Trent.
Mopped?
The Kansas City Chiefs had the number 1 ranked defense in all of football by the time that season ended.
Look, I think Kansas City would have won, but I think saying that they would have mopped them.
I think it would have been a walloping. I think it would have been bad.
Your personal feelings are coming out.
I think it would have been bad. I don't feel Super Bowl favorite with them.
They're absolutely Super Bowl favorites.
I'm not doing it.
They are just as good. They are just as good as San Francisco, and they are just as good as LA.
LA, sure.
You're absolutely
LA, sure. LA, sure. San Francisco, no. I think there's one.
How can you say they're not?
San Francisco.
How can you say they're not?
Don't like it.
San Francisco played them in San Francisco for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and it took Detroit playing the worst half of football they've played all season for San Francisco to beat them by less than a touchdown.
That's Detroit.
If you put them any lower than Super Bowl favorites, that is your personal opinion, and you have no way to back that up whatsoever.
I do have a way to back it up. I don't feel great about it.
But there's nothing tangible to back. There's nothing tangible to back that up with.
We're putting them there because they're in the NFC, and because we need more relevancy in that conference. I think there's one team. I think there's one cream of the crop team in the NFC as it stands today. Still,
that's you.
It is me.
That's you on an island thinking they're not Super Bowl favorites when they were Super Bowl favorites last year.
I want to see more of it. I still don't. I'm not. I'm always late to the party. I admit.
You're already late to the party. You're late to the party right now.
Yeah, I'm always late to the party. I am.
You put them in strong playoff team like it was like you taking your medicine when they went to the NFC title game last year. Of course, they're a strong playoff team. They're a Super Bowl favorite. Any team that made the conference title game last year and kept their entire team should be considered a strong Super Bowl favorite. They
I'll do
didn't
it.
lose
I'll do it.
anybody.
I mean, I guess, but I'll say here in August, and they're not gonna be my Super Bowl team.
That's fair. They're not going to be my Super Bowl team either, but if we're being very picky about who our Super Bowl favorites
We
are,
should be.
we're not putting Detroit on there.
We should be very, very picky about our Super Bowl favorites. Like I said, I think there are only three. Maybe. I was on putting Baltimore here.
You're really not going to like something I'm going to say later in this list. I already know now.
I don't know who you could be talking about.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Green Bay, again, they're not gonna win their division, I don't think. I think they're gonna be pretty good. They're gonna be at the top of the fringe playoff team. I feel pretty good about them making the playoffs. If there was a tier in between strong playoff team, fringe playoff teams, that's where I put the Packers. That's
I
probably
was
where I
going to
put
say
the
the
Bengals.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
The Texans, I feel pretty confident they'll win that division again.
Strong playoff team for sure.
I feel pretty strongly that they should probably win their division again,
Yeah.
even with the improvements that Tennessee made. With Anthony Richardson coming back to Indianapolis, who's on the list next. With Jacksonville, if Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars finally put it together, it could be a competitive division if things go right for all the teams. But I still think the Texans are the team to beat there, and I feel pretty strongly about that. Indianapolis, they were a fringe playoff team with Gardner Minshew, admittedly, but I think everybody who was watching the Colts offseason was very much looking forward to seeing them add more, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean they're a fringe playoff team right now. They're definitely better than mediocre, but it's like we said earlier, they're fully banking on Anthony Richardson elevating this team, and everything we've heard from the coach, everything we've heard from Shane Steichen, from Chris Ballard, the GM, is we fully trust that he can elevate this team. And look, if Anthony Richardson, if the small spurts we saw from him last year is the floor of what we'll see from him, the Colts are going to win the division and it's not going to be close. That's my hot take because we were kicking Houston's tail in the one game that he played. And then at the end of the year with Gardner Minshew, we lost by the skin of our teeth. So if AR is what they think he's going to be, we'll win the division. If not, we're going to be struggling to make the playoffs.
And Jaguars are in similar boat because we just need to see more. I'll put them in the fringe playoff team as well.
Yep.
Kansas City, anytime you have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, who they retained. You lose L'Jarius Sneed, that sucks, but you have McDuffie right there. I believe he was an All-Pro last year. Chiefs are still very good. They are the team to beat in the NFL, straight up.
Yep.
The Chargers. Listen, they got to add more. They really do. They're a fringe.
Yep.
I can see them being a fringe playoff team, but Justin Herbert has literally no weapons. They do not have a running back right now. Nope. They're the offensive line. Didn't they just lose a key part of that? I could be tripping.
I don't think they lost anybody, but they need a tackle bad.
They have a lot of needs.
Yeah.
I honestly lean towards mediocre, but I respect.
I thought you were going to say leaning bad, and I wouldn't have hated it. I think they're solidly going to be mediocre.
Okay.
The only thing that gives me pause about putting them in mediocre is Jim Harbaugh does not coach bad teams. He just doesn't. It would be hard for him to work his magic on this team with the roster the way it is right now. But he took a 6-win San Francisco team and had him in the NFC title game the next year. So if anybody can do it, it's him. I think they're a year away.
The Rams, I feel like, are a similar position that the Bengals are with me. When I see that I've broken my own rule by having the Bengals and strong playoff teams when they're not winning their division. But the Rams are kind of in a similar spot where the team ahead of them is just so goddamn good.
Yep.
But they're very good themselves, and when you look at the NFC, they're bad. I feel pretty strongly about Rams being a strong playoff team for a couple of different reasons. Maybe at their own detriment because they just lost the best defensive player in maybe NFL history. I still lean Lawrence Taylor, but Aaron Donald's right there. I feel pretty good about the Rams being a strong playoff team as it stands today. Do you feel differently?
Yeah, I think strong playoff team is the floor. I put them on the same level that I put the Lions. If it that Lions Rams game very well could have been the NFC title game last year. I that's how strongly I feel about both teams. The Rams have a ton of young guys on rookie contracts who are really solid. Losing Aaron Donald stinks, but that offense, I mean, Stafford's going to be healthier, you would assume.
Even if
Cooper
he's
Kupp's
not.
even if he's not, you got backup quarterback Jesus sitting back there just waiting. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, with a full year under his belt.
Kyron Williams.
Yeah, Kyron Williams. That offense is going to be competing with any offense in the league. I personally wouldn't hate putting them in Super Bowl favorites. I think them and
Yeah.
Detroit are right here, and I don't think San Francisco is that much better than the two of those teams.
The Raiders are in a similar boat to the Chargers to me.
Yeah,
I don't think they're bad. I think they can
definitely not
compete.
bad.
They can win games for sure. Bad teams are mostly reserved for like teams that you wouldn't pick to win a game no matter the matchup.
Yeah.
The Raiders, they can win games. So I feel pretty good about them. Mediocre. I
I would
no,
put them I would put them top of mediocre. Well, I wouldn't have them over Chicago, but we talked about Chicago. I would solidly have them over Denver and the Chargers because if they are a fringe playoff team, it wouldn't surprise me. They almost were last year.
no, for sure. Even despite the whole Josh McDaniels experiment.
Yep.
Um, the Miami Dolphins. They're a fringe playoff team. I think. I think that
Yeah.
top end talent is still pretty good there. Um, but they just you know what they kind of remind me of without the super success that they've seen this year. They kind of remind me of the Boston Celtics. They're very immature. They're very kind of flashy, but when it comes time to get the big game, for some reason they it's hard for them. They choke a lot more than the Celtics do. Um, they don't even get to the NBA finals. They don't even get to the conference championship. But the explosiveness you can't ignore. You can't
Yep.
ignore how good they play for 18 weeks of the year. They were this close to winning the division last year if it wasn't for late season struggles and
Yeah.
help.
It's just that you're never going to be a successful team in January and February by trying to win track meets every single time you go out. The only team I think this since 2000 that's been able to successfully do that were the Chiefs against the Eagles and the Chiefs against the Niners. And
Which time?
eventually
Instead
that
of the first
built.
time?
Yep. Yeah, the first time, sorry, I should have specified. The one where they played Jimmy G, yeah. I put him in fringe playoff team, but I I don't think anybody thinks they're going to be scaring anybody in January anytime soon.
Vikings, I feel the same way about, with the caveat that they need to get one of the rookie quarterbacks. Um, but that's the high end talent still there. They didn't really lose anything
Yeah.
outside of the quarterback, but they were a fringe
Well,
playoff
they
team when they
lost
had the
Daniil Hunter.
backups.
They lost Daniil Hunter, which is huge.
Yeah, but didn't they go and get another defensive end? Didn't they get like a Jonathan Grinnard or something?
I don't. If they did, I must have missed it. They certainly didn't get anybody who's going to make up for a guy like Daniil Hunter. I don't.
Minnesota Vikings sign. I should have kept the Spock track open, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Bullard. Uh, Jerry Tillery. Wow, that's a name. They got Jonah Williams. I like what they did. Again, they need to get somebody else to kind of help fill in that role because you're not going to fill out Daniil Hunter's role with one guy at this point. And they missed out on the big one, Christian Wilkins, who got paid by Vegas.
Yeah.
But I still feel pretty confident about the Vikings being a fringe playoff team with the caveat that they get a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely think the Vikings could be. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up last in the division. But that's a really good division. It's been a while since I couldn't tell you the last time the NFC North was this good all
It's true.
around.
It's true. The Patriots are bad.
Really bad.
We've tried to be optimistic for you guys, and we try to paint the picture here, but the picture is not for 2024. The Vegas has your win over under at 4.5. And I think that's about where we are.
Yep.
I think there's room to be. I think there's room to be optimistic, and naturally, when the season comes, I will be optimistic. I will be looking for the ways the Patriots can win this game, even if more often than not they don't. Um, but yeah, Patriots fans, you gotta understand this is a multi-year plan. This is a multi-year kind of build. You just gotta be patient. But no, you can't justify putting the Patriots even mediocre. The Saints, on the other hand, they have some decent talent. You don't feel awesome about it. You don't feel terrible about it. I think mediocre's fine for them because
Yeah,
I'd pick
low.
them to win games.
I would say low end mediocre.
It's
I
true.
almost feel bad putting the Raiders in the same tier because I think the Raiders are a much better team than New Orleans.
Yeah, but we're gonna have a lot of mediocre in this tier. I think.
Yeah,
I think the Giants are bad.
bad. Definitely bad.
The Jets have bad vibes, but they have good talent. So what do you do with that?
I think they're mediocre at best. I think anyone who thinks I don't see it. I don't see playoff contender.
No, definitely not.
They are a distant third in their own division.
Mm-hmm.
And
For
the only
sure.
reason they're not fourth is because the second worst team in the NFL is in their division.
And
So
we both like Pittsburgh as a fringe playoff team. I think. Again, you think they're going to be better than the Bengals. That's your hot take. So you have to kind of level with me here and let me do this and kind of be the voice of the popular opinion as it comes to that. Um, so we'll do that. We know your take. You've laid it out. We'll see where this is come July, August, September. But you kind of have to
well,
we kind of have to work with the the circumstances we're in right now.
well, here's the thing. Whatever tier we're putting Baltimore on, Steelers need to be put on the same tier.
Jesus Christ.
They need to be all Baltimore did. I'm just saying they won 10 games with Kenny Pickett, Donald Trump hands, Mr. Donald Trump hands himself. They won
Did he
10
sign the Bible too? Sorry.
games. I don't know if he did. He might not have been able to pick up the pen. 10 games with that as their quarterback. They added two guys who are way better than what they had at the most important position in football. And they added the second best linebacker. Well, not the second best linebacker in the division, but one of the best linebackers in football to their defense. And they added, there was another key addition they made on defense. You said his name earlier, Deshaun Elliott. They added him as well. And they're going to be adding more here in the draft. I really, really like Pittsburgh. I don't think there's anything that separates them and Baltimore. If when I said earlier you're really not going to like what I would say, I personally have them on my Super Bowl favorites list. If we're not putting them there, that's fine. But
I just think you have to see it first.
I think I said it a couple weeks ago.
I think you have to see it in
I think
action.
I think the only way that the Steelers aren't competing for the conference or if Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are just terrible, both of them. And I don't think that's going to happen considering they're both going to a much better coaching staff, much better offense, much better defense to back them up for the both of them. And I don't know. I don't see much to dislike about Pittsburgh personally.
I think I just really want to see it in action first. Let me get my eyes on it before I join the boat with you. Because I'm with you. I really, really like Pittsburgh. I think you've laid it out really, really well. I just let me see it. Let me see it before I make that judgment call.
I think for sure, even without seeing it, Cincinnati over Pittsburgh is crazy to me. I think.
Can you talk me into Seattle? Because my gut doesn't love them.
And mediocre.
Attaboy.
They're 100% mediocre.
I'm right there with you.
Now, if they, I know there's still talks about them potentially trading up. If they upgrade Geno Smith, the offense is pretty nasty.
Maybe we come back and look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, if they, depending on what they end up doing at quarterback, we may come back and reevaluate, but that's a tough division. And that's probably the toughest division in the NFC. No, maybe about it. I think it is the toughest division in the
The
NFC.
North?
The West.
No, but what about the North? The North doesn't have anybody as bad as the Cardinals.
Oh, duh. Sorry. I forgot about the North. I was thinking them versus the East, but the West is tough. Arizona, I think, is going to have a chance to get to the point where they're not better than Seattle, but far from an easy out. And then you've got arguably the two best teams in the conference you got to play as well. So I think they're mediocre.
Super Bowl favorites, we're going to throw them right there. Tampa, we've kind of discussed them a little bit earlier. They're a fringe playoff team because they're going to be
Yep.
battling for their division. The NFC South, we're just like, somebody's got to win it.
Yeah.
As much as they're getting better, those two teams. Where we put the third one? Who's the other? It's the Saints. They're mediocre, but they're fringe bad.
Yeah. Fringe bad mediocre, yeah.
The Titans, like their offseason moves so far, they're a mediocre team still, I think.
Yeah.
Another one of the I like the Steelers in a dissimilar vein. You gotta see it first.
Yep.
And then the commies. The Commanders.
Yeah.
Think they're still bad.
Their head coach is Dan Quinn. They're bad.
Horrible.
Yep.
Just for that, they're gonna be put in the bank.
That's all I got. Their head coach, I like. Look, they got weapons on offense. The defense is disgusting. I don't think there's a quarterback they could draft that's going to come in there and fix it, other than JJ McCarthy. But I'm kidding.
We didn't even talk about that because we just threw him in bad.
Oh well, I mean, if we want to talk about it really quickly, I guess
sure,
can.
Go for it. But I'll just lay this out first. The Super Bowl favorites, we have 4 of them: Baltimore, Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco. And the strong playoff teams, we got Buffalo, Cincinnati, Dallas, Houston, and the Rams. The fringe playoff teams, we got Dolphins, Packers, Steelers, Buccaneers, Falcons, Browns, Eagles, Colts, Vikings, and Jaguars. And the mediocre, the Bears, the Raiders, Titans, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Seahawks, Saints, and Jets. And in the bad, we got the Giants, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Patriots, and the Commanders. But one story we want to share with you as we stop sharing the screen. JJ McCarthy, Tom Pelissero is reporting that he could be the favorite for Washington. I don't necessarily agree with that, but what do you make of JJ McCarthy and a Cliff Kingsbury offense with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson?
Well, I think offensively it'd be a really good fit. I don't think he's going to single-handedly turn this team around, but I don't think Jaden Daniels or Drake May are going to do that either. I've said it. I've been saying it. I've been pounding the drum. Obviously, I'm a huge Michigan fan, but the national media and these coaches and these teams are catching up with what draft evaluators have been saying about J.J. McCarthy for years now. There was a report last offseason saying that J.J. McCarthy was a potential first overall pick heading into this year's draft. Now, obviously, I think Caleb Williams separated himself between then to be that, but it doesn't surprise me one bit that people are talking about him with the second overall pick because there's a lot to like about his game. And if the only argument anyone can come to with him being worse than Drake May or Jaden Daniels is he didn't throw a lot in college, they won the national championship and went 15-0, literally did not lose a game. Jim Harbaugh likes to run the football. Just is the way it is. Doesn't matter if he's got Andrew Luck back there, who he was also throwing the ball with, also running the ball with a lot when he had Andrew Luck, if that gives you any idea. He's such a good prospect, and there's so much to like there. Doesn't make him a lock by any means, but I'm not surprised he's being looked at with the second overall pick. And by the time we get to draft day, I don't think many people will be either.
think you laid out the pro JJ McCarthy position pretty well there. Listen, there's plenty of tools there for him to be just as successful as he would be anywhere else. True. But I don't know. I'm still just not in on the idea of taking him over Jaden Daniels. I don't know why I can't get there, but I just think that would be a bad move for Washington.
If Jaden had a bigger frame, it wouldn't even be a question. But Jaden has frame issues, and he also has. I like to hit really, really hard by linebackers. Has that issue?
Oh, Anthony Richardson has the same problem.
Yeah, well, Anthony Richardson is a cyborg that's built like a brick house. You know, his injuries last year were kind of freakish, but he runs like Anthony Richardson does and doesn't get down nearly as much as Anthony Richardson does, and he's half his size. So
I keep forgetting how big Anthony Richardson is. I
yeah,
think the first time I saw him on film, like he looks kind of skinny, and then I go and watch him. I'm like, oh wait, no, he's big. He's big.
He's huge. And right before he ended up getting the season ended with a shoulder injury, he was getting out of bounds. He was starting to slide. Like I think he figured it out. And then he just took a tackle a wrong way and then got hurt. But if Jaden Daniels goes out there and doesn't protect himself, it's another RG3 situation all over again.
Nope. But all right, that's your show. We're back. We're shaking off the rust. Be patient with us. We'll be back next week. Hopefully more stuff to talk about. We're approaching the dead air. Unfortunately, after the draft, it's gonna be hard. We're gonna be pushing ourselves harder than we've ever pushed ourselves. But we do have the draft coming. We do have some ideas for the draft. Make it interesting for you. My plan is to live stream one of the days with somebody. I will pull somebody from the street. I know you're gonna be lucky enough to be there for at least round one. I'll have to find somebody. I'll have to pull somebody out from the graveyard of guests. But Trent, you've been wonderful as always. We'll see you back here next week.
I'll be here.
And we will see you all next week. Thank you for watching the Foxboro BeatCast. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, comment. Comment your opinion on the Detroit Lions. That's the conversation for the day. Unfortunately, I kind of know the demographic that's going to agree with me. I don't love that demographic. We get into fights all the time, but we'll see how that goes then. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Foxboro BeatCast. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.